farmer's market this Saturday, and it's extended 9 to 1.
And there's no planning board meeting tomorrow night. Hey Lou, how you doing?
Good, how are you? I'm hard to be audience today.
Ah. God bless, we could use a cheering squad.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's please, very well, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Few announcements tonight. First of all, a reminder to everyone is New Ipswich is a Purple Heart community, and tomorrow is Purple Heart Day, which is August 7th. For those of you that are familiar, down Turnpike Road with a mix of the American flag, there are the Purple Heart flags. Also a reminder, the Farmers Market will be this Saturday, and they have an extended time. It will be from 9 to 1. And a reminder that the planning board meeting scheduled for tomorrow will not be held. This evening we have an appointment, I believe at 6:30 regarding tax, and we have, yes, we can wait on, since Lou is here, we will read through this agreement to see what it is that we need to do. So, give us 1 second. Okay, Mr. Alvarez, tell us what we're supposed to be doing with this.
May I approach?
Yes, you may.
In accordance with RSA Chapter 159, the town
Do you have a copy of that?
issues, no, but the town issues this certificate, which allows me to continue selling handguns. And that's the only thing it really does. I've had that license since I started back in 1991 or 92.
Yep.
And it was always filled out in the past by Lucy and whoever's followed through, but Jessica didn't seem to know anything about it.
And,
And given that my license has always been serial number 1, I suspect that I may be the only person in town that's been getting those. So, she was referring me over to the town administrator, and she happens to be on vacation this week. But that puts a limit on things for me, is I just got my regular FFL renewed along with my SLT.
but let's just get to the point. This is issued by the state.
No, that's actually issued by you here in the town. If you notice, it's got it's got the selectman's signature.
Yeah. But is this not provided by the state?
No, it is provided by the town. Has been for as long as I can remember, as long as I've received them.
Is it a yearly renewal?
It is, however, the last one, or the last couple, it was normally $25 a year, but since my license, my federal license goes for 3 years at a time, we just gamed it up and made it into a 3-year renewal at $25 a year.
It says, this form prescribed by the Director of the Division of State Police, Concord, New Hampshire. So unless we have, I can ask Jessica to contact them and see if they have this form.
Yeah, what they had was, Lucy had a fairly thick.
But Lucy's not here.
I understand, I'm just saying,
Okay,
I'm
let's-
just saying, somewhere here, there is a file with the blank forms and with,
Respectfully understanding what you're thinking, okay?
okay.
If Jessica doesn't know where it is, and we need to get that to you, then her best route is to contact
Okay.
the people that make the form and say, email it over to me or whatever, and then she can print it and then we can sign it.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't see that we have an issue with
Yeah.
it. We just want
Yeah.
to make sure we
Yeah.
dot the i's and cross the t's.
And
if
do
it's
it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Do it right. There you go.
I mean, as I said, there should be a historical file.
And this is a perfect record of it,
Right,
but,
as is the rest of
yeah,
it, that you can see from here.
yeah. But you mentioned something about the RSA, and is this supposed to be an annual license?
It's an annual renewal, however, when George Lawrence was a selectman, he had specified that you could put an expiration date 3 years down the road and just
Okay.
charge for the 3 years.
Okay, you
We'll just-
said RSA
It says chapter
150
159.
159, okay. Just want to read it and
Yeah.
see what we're doing or not doing.
And that's why, one of the reasons I came.
Can we get a copy of that, please?
Um,
We can make it right out there.
okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when does your current license expire, Lou?
It did expire on August 1st. I just received my renewal in the mail yesterday.
Okay.
The old ones,
Looks like we just drafted a letter or something.
the old forms were simply Xerox copies similar to that.
Okay.
I remember those.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Not in great detail, though, at my age.
No, but you, that's your signature.
So how's everything else? Good?
Are we gonna have a busy schedule on the next meeting?
The 21st, there's a number of items that need some serious discussion. So if you can make that meeting, it would be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jessica, pick it up now.
Am I alive?
And then I read the obituary columns, make sure my name's not there. And so I also request that, that we do it for 3 years.
I'm gonna check that RSA, but on this here, is this something that we keep, or you,
That's proof of, that I'm authorized by the federal government to.
so we can attach this with our copy if you're,
Right, yeah, just for your reference.
okay.
You don't advertise, do you, at all?
I do. Part of the business now is handling, there's a lot of people that are buying their guns online, and they have me listed as a transfer FFL. So businesses will send the gun to me, and then I will do the transfer and run through the approval process for the individuals.
Okay.
So as far as being advertising, no. The brunt of my business is manufacturing, rather than do that, and I just do the transfers as more of a courtesy to the people here in town.
Okay.
What was the title on that? To sell revolvers and pistols, or something to that effect?
License to sell pistols and revolvers, yeah.
If I give you the name of a gun, can you find it for me?
I'm sorry, if you what?
I want a Jacob Mall flintlock. MOLL. Flintlock rifle. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Something for under 10. Okay.
Okay.
I'm serious, if you could buy one.
Have you looked under gunbroker.com? I'm not gunbroker, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, gunbroker.com.
Gun broker,
Yeah.
I'll take a look.
That's a.
Okay,
a-
let's let this conversation go aside, please, or
Oh, you
up
can
there.
really-
The zoning board, would like to recommend that Danielle Sickler be appointed, zoning board member.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All done.
I couldn't I was trying to read through the RSAs to see what the process is, and there was nothing in there that I saw where it's appointed by the zoning board, and I know I was appointed by the selectmen back when
Yeah.
I became a member, so I'm assuming we're
It's
sticking the same
It's
group.
appointed, it's appointed by the select.
Okay.
That's an appointment.
So, Danielle Sickler.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is she being appointed as a member or?
A member.
as an alternate?
A member.
Okay. Are the selectmen still looking for an alternate for the zoning board?
We are looking for alternates, yes.
And do I need to submit a resume for that? or-
What, the ZBA typically asks is that you attend a meeting or two just to see what it is, how
Not
it
a
functions, and then they'll do one of these letters.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
We just have to be careful that we don't have a conflict with him serving on the planning board as well as the zoning board. Remember, we had
But that is,
we better reread that paragraph.
yeah, I'm almost positive it's not a conflict, but,
Yeah, there are some new clarifications that came out recently on
Yeah, I think it might be if he rules on the same topic or same application on the same property. I know there's some
no,
tricky.
the RSAs are specific about which members cannot be members of another board. It doesn't depend on a decision or an applicant. We just presume that if somebody feels they have a conflict, because you have to treat it as a judicial role, then they recuse themselves.
David,
Yes,
I
sir.
think you can have one person serving on the ZBA and the planning board, but not two or more.
And that's
There's
what
a
I'm
num-
saying.
there's a
You're
number.
right. There's something like that in the
Yeah.
RSA.
Mhm.
Uh,
And I think there's something in there that whether that person is an employee of the town or not. And we,
Correct.
Yeah.
But I think that's only to become a selectman. An employee of the town can sit on some of the other boards.
Correct.
yeah, there was
Yeah.
some recent clarification that I believe they extended that out a bit.
Okay, this is,
Chairman, we
Right.
have time for me to ask you one simple question.
sure.
What are we doing about the house on Greenville Road?
That's actually in the discussions later on this evening. That house is, that is a appointment we have this evening at 6:30.
And we believe that it would be a public hearing.
They requested a public hearing versus a non-public.
At what time?
6:30.
6:30.
Welcome to stay for it if you so choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as that has been addressed more than once already, and we have come to this point.
Is there an order to remove it?
We have asked at this point for it to be better secured, because it is a safety and health violation. And this evening, we are continuing that to the next level.
Okay, you gotta have something there.
Yes.
You know, my only comment to that is we take enough plywood to rebuild the house to secure it.
There's other ways of securing it.
What
You know,
we meant was like keeping
fenced
it safety secure, like so that someone couldn't go in, a child or something couldn't
Right.
go in and hurt themselves.
Something better than caution tape.
Well, I guess what I'm looking at is, I think you should have an order to remove.
Well, let's wait till the hearing and we'll.
Can we hold
Yeah.
hold any discussion?
Yeah,
on this
and I'll
until
stop
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yep.
I'll come back.
Okay. Rulemaking, this pertains to the testing at the landfill. Service. This is an amendment. Rule number, so this must be the new rule. This is amendment for the groundwater quality standards.
Second page has the actual change.
Because any costs are attributable to the statute, not the rules. The rules do not mandate or assign any new, expanded, or modified programs or responsibilities to any political subdivision in such a way as to necessitate additional local expenditures by the political subdivision, and so do not violate Part 1, Part 28. Any cost that might be associated with the rules are within the scope of modifications allowable under City of Concord versus the State of New Hampshire. Here we go into that legalese, because any costs are attributable to the statute, not the rules. What statute are they referring to? The rules do not mandate. result from human operations or activities. Existing. Affected by the proposed revisions, including a person responsible for the remediation of a site that is contaminated with any of the above noted compounds. Comparison of the cost of the proposed rules to the existing rules. There was no difference in cost when compared. Any costs or benefit associated with the proposed rules. I don't know if you guys understand that, but I can't without, I guess, reading RSA.
Yeah, all the different
45Cs.
RSAs, and when they show here, these, where they talk about rules and statutes, here's the rule, here are the statutes.
And they're saying, well, they can change the rule, and it's that if it's a change of the statute, then there's cost, but if there's cost with the rule, it doesn't matter because it's not a statute.
Yeah,
Sounds like double talk.
It does, and this appears to be my understanding, anytime anything is changed for an RSA such as this, then this gets submitted and somebody, the legislature or the, I think they call it the JICAL, judicial, whatever it is, reviews it. So I'm not quite sure at what point this goes, but if you saw here, there was a additional fee of $1,500 from Terracon just to provide this test. And what I guess what really threw me off was my understanding from the letter that we received from DES was an initial screening had already been done.
So should we be talking to somebody from DES, or should we be talking to somebody from Terracon?
Well, Terracon,
Either the
who is our contractor for the testing at the landfill, submitted this as a change to the scope and services because of the response from DES.
Right.
so to add one chemical to look for, it's an increase of $1,500.
Yeah, I'll believe it if it's
Well, the way they were,
exotic material.
they called it a receptor survey. A receptor survey and confirmatory round of sampling for PFAS are required. The scope shall generally encompass an area within 1,000 feet of the GMZ. Supply well used for consumptive purpose within the radius shall be identified and sampled for PFAS. Says the scope of the receptor survey shall generally encompass an area within 1,000 feet of the GMZ. And where is the acronym for GMZ? I'm assuming that's the landfill.
Sounds like ground model analysis or something.
What do you think it is?
Ground model, maybe groundwater, ground model, something like that. Groundwater model.
Just because I'm nosy, do they specify what the other chemical is that they?
PFAS,
PFAS?
the stuff that was all,
PFOS.
yeah, PFAS, PFOS, is the plastics that were in the water in Merrimack around the, processing plant.
Saint Cobain?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, where's the 1,000 feet?
Yeah. Maybe it's groundwater management zone.
How about groundwater management area?
But no, it's a Z.
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 Yeah.
Oh, zone.
Something, because like here, it's a groundwater management permit as a GWP. So,
What are the acronyms for those two chemicals? PFOS?
PFOA and PFOS. You can't find anywhere where it tells you what that acronym is.
But I guess at this point in time, should we authorize the additional cost? to have
Yeah,
this?
because I don't have a choice, yeah.
No choice. Let's
Well,
do
you
it.
can just say no. Of course, you have a
And,
choice.
and have them come after us? Well,
For
I mean-
what?
I mean, we don't provide the testing information. What would DES do?
Don't know. Don't know.
Maybe we shouldn't authorize it then. Let them chase us.
That's why I'm wondering,
I mean, I can handle a nasty letter.
I guess from my point, I wouldn't have an issue with having to incur the initial cost, because what really rubs me the wrong way is we are sure the state is taking in money from companies for corrective action. Now, granted, it may not pertain out here, but if they're changing the rules as they say or whatever, then I think if there's any corrective action that's gonna be required, that should be funded by them.
But are we setting a precedent by funding the first portion, and then they'll say, well, you paid for this, well, you're gonna pay for the rest of it?
See, the way I'm looking at it is to be practical, to know whether it's there or not. Yes, we had it tested at your threat.
Okay.
But if there's remediation that would ever be needed, or new wells or whatever, then,
Come back to the topic.
yeah. What do you think?
Where's the money coming from? What line item budget?
Comes out of the landfill testing.
All right,
It'll be over budget, we'll have to
Yeah.
change monies around.
okay, let's do it.
All set?
All set?
So I put down, approved unanimously to incur the cost of initial testing, but if any further costs are required, they will be addressed with DES at a future date. Good.
And I was looking, it looks like it's because they listed so many different wells that have to be tested. There's MW8R is what they've got.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 wells that have to be tested.
I don't know where those are and if those are within the 1,000-foot radius that they're talking
Mhm.
about. Cause I know there are wells there that aren't anywhere, you know, you measure out 1,000 feet, you're still in
Yeah,
the land.
yeah.
But
Yes, the minimum should include those wells. And those are monitoring wells, so I don't even know if those are off our property or whether those are
I
on the
think
property.
most of these are on the property.
Yeah.
I don't think there were any that are off. There was one that was damaged that got replaced.
Yeah, that's the
last
one
year.
they said.
Yeah.
Has to be called now MW8R instead of
That's just a
MW8.
renaming thing.
Yeah.
Paperwork on Terracon. Okay. Ms. Griffin?
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to say we've got a meeting here with Mrs. Griffin regarding delinquent tax payments. And typically, we handle this in a non-public session, but at your request, you asked for it to be in a public session.
Yes,
So,
sir, I did.
we're gonna let you speak first.
Thank you, sir. May I approach? I have some documents, and I have a presentation that is, I'm gonna blow through because it's a little lengthy. Got a lot of sciencey stuff and regulations in it, but I'll go through. really
You are
quickly.
welcome to come up.
Thank you, sir.
What is the presentation before we
It's
expend it?
regarding the fire at 283 Greenville Road, which connects to what we do about property.
The fire has absolutely no consideration on your tax payments to the town.
No, right, well, it does in so much as there's a finite amount of money that I have that I can.
That has the fire has absolutely nothing to do with the taxes you owe to the town.
Okay, would you have a concern about the public safety issue that is extant in the area?
We've seen the reports from the power company that said that there were no issues. We've seen the report from the fire marshal that said what the cause, that the cause was electrical within the buildings of the house. Other than that, there is no concern to us on the property except that in its current situation, it needs to be removed.
Okay, the fire report that I received said that it was undetermined, it didn't indicate one way or another any kind of causality being specific to the house or not. We do have the fact that both houses burned, each of them within approximately 2 months of work being done at the utility poles. And there is a hazard that is absolutely irrefutable, and that's what I wanted to
That
show
has
you.
nothing to do with your taxes owed to the town.
Okay,
I guess that's the correlation you have to make to us,
okay.
is, as the Board of Selectmen, we need to collect the taxes from the
Oh, I
residents.
understand the
So,
position.
we look at it that it's a
Right.
piece of property, the taxes have been delinquent long before the fire.
Right,
They continue to be, and they are at such a point that without coming into some
decisions have to be made, right. And when
large sums of money to pay it off, it seems like it's not practical.
compounding the issue, you have a mitigation that is far in excess of the taxes that are owed on it. The house had asbestos siding.
Mhm.
That's going to be pricey to get rid of.
Mhm.
It's also the structure itself. That's going to have a cost to it. So we're talking about a substantial sum of money.
Mhm.
And the way that I see it, if I'm correct, now, to sum everything up, what I'm asking for is just a few minutes of your time to show you what I've been doing. The town has nothing to lose by taking another look at this and just considering it. That's all I'm asking, okay? And as far as what I have left to lose, I actually have a lot left to lose. I am staking the entirety of my academic and professional credibility and integrity and competence on having done solid research and identifying an extant hazard that is something that this town needs to know about. And I can show you, if you just want me to pick the highlights and get right to the punch, I'll be happy to do that.
If you want to present something to us that's not going to be
It's not going to be very
inordinately
long.
long,
All of the
well,
details are.
we're receptive, but I just want
Right.
you to understand, we're looking at it strictly from taxes.
Okay, and I totally understand that. Okay. Really
Did you
quickly,
wanna-
I don't have a means to connect.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Well, there's a,
Oh, a jack?
yeah.
Sure,
Kurt, can you just pull that TV away? Should be a wire, cable there for her to tie into that.
thank you so much.
What's that?
Wanna hit that light?
Okay, blowing through this very, very quickly, because it is like 55 minutes.
Mhm.
What we have,
What do you have?
someone, it's big.
You can,
Yep.
Okay, so there is an explanation on a few pages about the NSC, what it relates to utility poles. I'll go ahead and skip a lot of that. Suffice to say, we have a multi-grounded system. It's required to be, and it is what we have in pretty much all of North America, including New Hampshire and New Ipswich. The key star of this team is the multi-grounded neutral. There's anatomies of the pole. I broke it down, all the pieces are there. What I really want to talk about is this. Multi-grounded neutral, it's an MGN, its distribution lines have a multi-grounded neutral conductor that provides a return path for electricity. It's required to be there by law. And it has to be there wherever there's a transformer. Okay, whether it's a larger transformer, a step-down transformer, it has to be there. It's connected to the grounding conductor, that's the one that rolls down the pole, which is connected to a grounding rod. It's also connected to a butt coil. at the base of the pole. A butt coil is just what it sounds like. It's a coil of wire at the base of the utility pole, and that's its name, butt coil. What we have, so this is more anatomy of the power line. We have this. These are
Back one.
examples of, back one? Oh, we have this in New Ipswich. This is on Greenville Road. These are typical examples of the multi-grounded, I'm just gonna call it the neutral. So here's our neutral. It's located directly underneath the transformers. This is the communication cables. These are the transmission lines up here. Okay, so it's here, 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 it's there. It is pretty much everywhere on Greenville Road, except in front of 283 Greenville Road and 277 Greenville Road. It's missing from the Greenville town line to the southwest corner of the Sacred Heart Cemetery. It's not there, which means it is impossible for Eversource to have grounded these properly. More to the fact, you cannot have a multi-grounded system because the quarterback of your all-star system for this is missing. It's absent, it's not there. So you don't have a team. There's another couple of pictures. This is the pole in front of 277. It's up a little ways. The ones previously will run directly in front of my house. I don't know what's left of it. Rule 96C requires the neutral and multi-grounded system to be connected to electrodes at each transformer location at a sufficient number of additional points, totaling not less than 4 grounds in each mile for the entire length, not including the grounds of the interval services. This will relate to a lot of the stuff that I've just blown over already with rules and regulations. Suffice to say, transformer and other components on the pole, it has to be there. Okay, it's just talking about the ground resistance, about the grounding rods itself. There are factors that go into this. This is Ohm's law, which basically says that the potential difference, the voltage across an ideal conductor is proportional to the current through it. And then there's also Kirchhoff's law, which is that states that the current flowing into a node or a junction must be equal to current flowing out of it. This is a consequence of the charge of conservation. Kirchhoff's second law states the sum of all voltage around any closed loop of a circuit must equal 0. This is a consequence of the charge of conservation of energy. Put really, really simply, because I'm not really the electronics person here. This is all new to me. This has been what I've been researching since the fire. Basically, the current's going to go somewhere. Any kind of a current, it's going to go somewhere. If it can't go to ground, it'll find another path to ground. It's going to go somewhere. It has to. It's physics. These are the grounding rods in front of 277. It is required to be 8. Don Ray from Eversource was out. He pointed out that this is not grounded properly in front of 277. The grounding conductor is sticking up out of the earth. It has to be buried into the earth. I don't remember if he said 4 inches or 8 inches. You also have a splice coming off of it that goes to what appears to be the butt coil of a sawed-off pole approximately a foot away. This is not to spec. It is not done properly. These are on my lines. He said that looks like a 40-year-old splice, plus I have outdated telecommunications equipment on my pole. He has no idea what it does, what its function is. This is where it gets interesting. On the utility poles in front of on the grounding conductor, wire running down goes to ground, in front of 277, here are them. My husband took a resistance test, and the outcome summarized was the quality of the connection between the conductor and ground was deteriorating, as is evidenced by the resistance value that increased over time. It's for a short amount of time, it was a few seconds, but it was jumping all over the place. While he tried to perform a current test, which goes around it, he got a discharge of 14 amperes on that line. We managed to capture it for you. Which means the grounding rod is not functioning the way it's supposed to. In front of ours, no reading. Could not get a reading, 1 on the multimeter, zeroed out. It's not, it indicates a broken circuit. Okay, so Eversource, because the Public Utilities Commission, to our knowledge, nobody's actually run meter tests. They've not actually done anything other than visual inspection. And I think they've looked at some data from their transformers from their end over wherever that is, but they haven't been out to physically look to check the equipment here. If they did, they would notice there's no common neutral and probably a series of other problems. It's glaringly obvious if you know what to look for. Okay, so the dates of the fires, you're aware, on, what was it, in November 2012, this is going the 3rd, in November, in 2012, but yeah, they had their first electrical fire. On January 21st of 2019, the 277 burned to the ground. This was within 2 months, give or take, of the tree coming down south of their property, knocking down transmission lines. There's a police report for it. And there was work on the line. So approximately 2 months later, they had their fire. Sometime after January 8th, and I know this because this is the last photograph I have of prior to that from outside my house, sometime after that, somebody came out and fixed the street light that is wired to the utility pole that supplied this drop service to our house. Now remember, there is no common neutral on the line. This cannot be grounded properly because there's nothing to ground it to. And it cannot be operating properly because there is nothing to ground it to. It's required to be. There's a few pages on that. Okay, this is talking about this. That was what I covered. Oh, and if you're wondering, do the rest of them in New Ipswich, are the rest of the streetlights on Greenville Road attached to a neutral? Well, yes, they are. As a matter of fact, all of the streetlights except mine. And one other which is actually attached to the guy wire, which will also go to ground. And there's one other, it's about halfway down Greenville Road. All the rest of them, and pretty much everywhere else in town, they're connected to the neutral. That's because they're required to be. Mine isn't. There's no neutral. It is connected, not to neutral. It can't be functioning properly, period. There's stuff about, this is Eversource's own policy to the standard by which they install it and wire it. This is what they cited. Basically says how it has to be bonded and grounded to neutral and to the ground itself. We also talk about voltage shock, which is something that can happen if it's not installed properly. Blowing through this quickly. The lamp, the luminaire is how this is supposed to be labeled. So what kind of street light have I got? Well, I have a yellow stickered 7. 7 indicates 70 watts. The yellow sticker indicates that I have either a high pressure sodium or a low pressure sodium, judging from the fact that it's not an orange light, it's a whitish light. It's a brighter light. It's probably a high pressure sodium. Either one of them requires a ballast. Ballast has to be connected to the neutral, which isn't there. It can't be functioning properly. This is some information about that goes on about the types of street lights, the high pressure sodium lights. Okay, we also talk a little bit more about this. This is from the Highway Lighting Design Manual of the state of New Hampshire. They tell you what happens if the ballast doesn't function properly. What it does, if no ballast controls an operating HID lamp, the current would increase continually, causing impedance to decrease continually, causing the current to continually increase even more. This cycle will continue until the lamp burns out. The phenomenon is called negative resistance, which would explain why the lamp that the previous street light on that road burned out in less than, 2 years? And why this one is malfunctioning right after it was, well, it's not on now because the power's off, but, okay. This is some stuff about NFPA, about electrical fires and arcs and ignition, how you get an electrical fire. So there's some sciencey stuff there. Talks about resistance that we just heard about regarding the highway safety, regarding the ballast or an improperly installed ballast. And this is a picture of what's left of my house. Okay, this is where Chief One says the fire, she believes it occurred, the point of ignition was here. Okay, this is the inside of it. We're looking for the outlet where she suspected the fire started. We had a table and some stacks of vintage records in front of it. There was nothing in that plug. There was nothing plugged in to that outlet. The one that was directly south of it, on the south of the office wall, also had a bookshelf in front of it. Nothing was plugged into it either. In between the two, on the west wall, was my husband's desk. He had a powered computer on, 2 monitors, a desk lamp, and there was a power strip that some of these things were plugged into. It wasn't grossly overloaded, but there were 4 components plugged in at the time?
Yeah,
4 components plugged in at the time. Should not have exceeded it, especially considering there was nothing plugged into. This is on 1 branch circuit. Okay? This is the outlet that supposedly, this is where Chief Lund told me the fire started. That's what's left of the outlet. Suffice to say, the stuff I blew through gives you a description of what it looks like, where it caused the fire, not as a symptom, and it pretty much matches. We're looking at damage that occurred inside the wall, ignited, and then set the house on fire. What gets really interesting is under the house. This is right by that outlet, under the house, where it burned through. We also have, underneath my husband's desk, so this is on the west wall, we have the pathway of wires underneath. And this isn't directly exposed to the fire damage upstairs. Big old boards, house built in 1860s, big heavy timbers. We have arcing damage all along this run for that branch circuit. So the ignition point that Chief Lund said on the north side of the office circuit, going towards the west, we're traveling west this way. This is the outlet that on the west wall, that it was so burnt it fell down into the basement. This is what's left of it, which again, clear indicator that that was also experiencing a fault. It also was potentially another point of ignition, judging from the fire damage, per the other references that I've cited previously. This is the one that is upstairs on the south wall of the office. So that's continuing that branch loop. This is the one behind the bookcase, which had nothing plugged into it. And it should have been protected from fire damage to some degree. That also is evidencing electrical faults in it.
Like upstairs, you mean it's back on the ground floor.
So, nothing was plugged in, I already covered that. This talks about what melting conductors and ground fault arcs look like. This is taken from forensic engineering fundamentals. We talk about the voltage drop again and what it looks like when you're looking at it from a forensic context. There's some more sciencey stuff that explains what likely happened on the circuits. And going through that, suffice to say, if there was an improperly wired and grounded equipment on Eversource's pole and or the street light, then one could troubleshoot this by saying it would have affected the whole house, not just the office. So is there evidence in other parts of the house that wouldn't have been particularly exposed to the fire damage that could prove this overvoltage, this current irregularity, such as to create arcing in short that would cause the house to burn down? As a matter of fact, this is the light in the kitchen. It is completely burned out, arcing. There's not that much damage around, but there's still fire damage. Okay, so maybe. The proverbial smoking gun is this. These are pictures of me unwinding it. We actually caught it on video. These are screenshots on my phone while I was unwinding electrical tape. This is a junction box that is on the opposite, in the basement, on the opposite corner from the office. So the office is on the northwest corner of the house, looking towards the road. The kitchen is on the southeast corner of the ground story, and this is the basement directly under that. There's no fire damage in that part of the basement. And what we got is classic evidence of arcing.
Those wires are actually welded
They're
together.
welded together. So, I'm begging the town to consider what I've handed you. I know I've gone through this so fast, you'll need to review it. And I'm sure that you're gonna wanna have somebody who's experienced in this to look at it and really go through it and review it and whatever. But I'm begging the town to consider reopening the investigation. The way I see it is the town has nothing to lose. All it does is it demonstrates your commitment to public safety. I believe that there's a hazard on the lines, and according to Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's law, if it's not mitigated, then physics is physics. 277 and 283 will have another electrical fire. The only two questions are when and are the occupants going to survive? That's it. Those are your only two questions, if I'm right. The entirety of my master's degree is writing on this, because I have a master's degree in critical incident management, and my thing is research. So if my research is bad on this, my reputation is gone, and I'm stating this in a public meeting. This is why I wanted a public meeting, because I am laying the last bit of what I have on this. This is my reputation. It's a lot more important to me than a house and a couple acres of land. I'm just asking you to review what I sent out and consider. That's it. And as far as the money aspect of it, well, if I'm right, I don't see why a single cent of taxpayers' money should have gone to the fire rescue. It seems like the town is in a position where, if I'm right, you should be able to be compensated for gross negligence. Because that's really what we're talking about. If I'm right, this is gross negligence. And I cannot move on this any further than I have without the town's help. I can't do it. I'm done. I've hit a wall. Thank you very much for letting me present this.
You're welcome. It appears you've done a lot of research into the investigation of what caused the fire. As we indicated at the beginning, we really have no ties to that. But just for a question of my own
Sure.
curiosity,
Oh.
I'm presuming that you've presented this to Eversource, and what have they done? Have they not?
Not in PowerPoint. I've presented it in narrative, not visually. I was missing actual pictures of the poles. I was missing photographic pieces.
But I mean, between Eversource and the Public Utilities Commission, I would have thought the submission even of your presentation would have warranted an investigation on their behalf promptly.
There was one, but it was a visual inspection. It was done by Don Ray, he is the one who was telling me about the grounding poles. This has been a process that occurred on May 6th. On May 6th, I didn't really know what I was looking at. I asked a lot of dumb questions. It took a lot of dumb questions and wrong turns to get to where I am today. I didn't know what I was looking for. Prior to the fire, all I knew about electricity was if the light switch doesn't work, I yell for my husband to fix it. That was it. So this has been a work in progress.
And I can understand that. But as a town, we need to be sure,
Of course.
you know, where we're coming from
Right.
regarding payment of taxes.
Of course.
And I believe the paperwork we have shows this going back to 2009. So,
No, I didn't live here in
No.
2009.
well, let's
I
see.
didn't, I
Mortgage
lived in, I didn't buy a
payment,
place till 2012.
zeros, no, these zeros, those were paid. Then in,
Right.
16, 14.
14. Decrease payment of 300. Yeah, in 16,
Right.
it's been accruing, and as of this report, which went through August 5th, we're now up to $31,228. And this accrues the interest, it accrues every time a tax bill is sent out.
I
So
have-
we need to, as a board,
Mhm.
have addressed that,
Yes.
okay? A payment plan was set up with stipulations that payments don't get missed. They have been missed. We recognized in July you made a payment.
June, July.
June, I believe, was low, and then you made up in July with what was lacking in June. But with this payment plan, it will never,
It's not even covering any.
it's not gonna
I
cover.
know,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so my question is, do the selectmen, have authority to deal with abatements, or do I have to take this matter up with the Board of Assessors? Because
Selectmen have no,
no authority, okay,
No,
so
no.
what I have been pursuing as well is the abatement applications have been summarily denied year after year after year. So would the board like me to get on the docket to speak with the Board of Assessors to see if we can do this? Because at the cost of 30-some-odd thousand, plus this year's taxes, plus the mitigation of the house, plus the asbestos, I'm probably in the hole for way over $100,000 before I can even think about moving back. That's not even site prep or whatever. And then I'd also have to be in a good position with the Board of Assessors, because as it is, I had not one but two mobile homes that were being given to me that I was not allowed to even think about putting. I had to pass them off. So that's gone, that ship has sailed. So as far as putting a dwelling back on there, if I'm not in good standing with the Board of Assessors, that's never gonna happen. So it seems like, would you like that to be my next?
let's back up, because you were
Mhm.
saying things so quickly that they were accumulating.
Oh, sorry, I have a tendency to babble when I'm nervous.
My understanding is you have applied on more than one occasion
Yes,
for abatements. Some were granted, some were not,
right.
okay? So my understanding of the process is if the Board of Assessors has denied it,
Mhm.
then your next avenue
Mhm.
would be to appeal it to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals at the state level.
Is that what you'd like me to do?
That's up to you.
Okay,
Okay,
well, I
I
would like
can't-
to work with the town.
Right. The only thing that this board is looking at is collecting the taxes
Right.
that we can operate the town.
Right.
With that said,
Mhm.
through our council,
Mhm.
we have come up with stipulations in which you would need to meet these criteria. And if not, then this board would need to make a decision, or has made the decision,
Mm.
to go forth with the deeding,
Okay,
okay? I will give you a copy of this.
okay, is there any review period, or is this saying I must make a decision now?
I would think it would be fair to allow 2 weeks, because we won't be meeting next week,
Thank you very much.
so.
And you'll probably want council to review it as well.
Okay. Thank
Whomever.
you, thank you very much for the opportunity to do that.
But you can read that and just reply to us, either sign, because
Mhm.
it'll have a signature page, and then we would do it.
Thank you so much.
But I'd be more than curious to see how you make out
Please,
with
and
Eversource.
please have electrician, somebody.
Well, we're not,
just-
again, that's, I'm strictly commenting on a personal viewpoint,
Okay,
thinking that you have a utility company out there, and if in fact your comments were correct, that I would have thought they would have
yeah,
addressed them. So it may be worth a knock on the door.
Yeah, if I might, it appears you have two separate issues here. You have your taxes that are in arrears, which you're aware of, and that's the only thing we truly deal with.
okay,
The operation and maintenance of the electrical system along Greenville Road belongs to Eversource.
And I would like to add addition, we keep talking that the only thing we're concerned about is the taxes. I would like to make it very clear that we are concerned with public safety, and your house
I knew you would be, of
is
course,
a huge threat to public safety.
It
It
is.
is not secured. We're children up and down that road constantly. All it would take would be for one curious child to go on that property. They don't care two flips about caution tape. So,
And that's one of the
That's
items
part of
in
the
that
stipulation.
stipulation.
So we keep saying taxes, that's one piece of it. Personally, I have,
public safety.
public safety is is extremely concerning to me, especially with the location.
Now, on the public safety issue, I have spoken with the state fire marshal a couple of times. And what we have is a jurisdictional impasse. He cannot come in, the state fire marshal cannot come into New Ipswich unless invited. And it is in the town's purview. I mean, I already spoke with Chief Lund about this. She told me flat out, it's a volunteer fire department, limited resources, and this is out of their expertise. If I'm anywhere even ballpark to right, it exceeds the capacity of the local fire department to really deal with. So at that point, the town, if you feel that there's any shred of merit to anything of what I said, you can very easily just pick up the phone and allow the state fire marshal to investigate. At which point, again, the town has nothing to lose. All you're showing is your dedication to public safety. And if I'm right, then we can possibly do something before the next fire. Because again, if I'm right, physics is physics, 277 and 283 will have another electrical fire. It can't not happen. It's only a question of time, and will the humans survive?
If I might suggest, we're inviting the state fire marshal here may or may not prove anything. But this sounds, if your premises are correct, that you should consult with council, possibly hire an electrical engineer, and rather than chase the town in whatever Superior Court over taxes, you should be considering a civil suit with some basis of expertise which we cannot provide.
Right.
The other thing that I suggest you look at is the mathematics of your tax situation, cleanup situation, and the value of the property as it currently stands.
Exactly.
We have some issues on taxes. I don't know what your resources are, and quite honestly,
I'm in AmeriCorps Vista. I don't give.
quite honestly, I'm not sure you can pay the taxes the back taxes in a timely manner. And you may want to look at your other options. And I don't know if the deed is turned over to the town for the property, does the balance follow the individual, or is that wiped out, Dave? Do you know?
If the
Uh,
town exercises its tax deed, then the when the town dispenses of the property, we would collect whatever we could, and if it's not enough to cover it, then I
The-
believe the town will just,
Just write it
Yeah.
off?
yes.
Okay, but the debt would not follow the individual?
I don't believe it does.
Okay. So you may want to consider that.
I know
Oh,
the answer.
excuse me. Yes, Mr. Coffey?
Okay. The answer to that question is pretty much what you said. If you sell the property within 3 years, then anything you sell a property for in excess of what the outstanding taxes and interests were, calculated up to the date of the sale, so you have to simulate it. Okay, anything in excess of that, plus legal fees and stuff, has to be returned to the former owner or the estate or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So the ones I've dealt with are mostly dead people, the
Mhm.
estate loses
Right.
track. If you take the property, you then have the responsibility for, shall we say, maintaining it.
Mm-hmm.
So the day you take the property, you own the cleanup.
Right,
Correct.
And that would have to be added to it.
right.
The only other thing I can add to it is that, the fire occurred on April 19th, I believe.
17th.
17th,
Very close.
okay. So, our tax year is April 1 to March 31st. So essentially, in this tax year, you wouldn't be taxed for a house, you'd be taxed for a property that needs a cleanup.
No, but a clarification, if the property valuation is, or the property brings less than the amount of taxes owed,
Then,
then
yeah.
the individual is
I
free
was
and
just saying
clear.
that if it brings more, if it
Right.
brings less,
Right.
then it's over.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Right, but again, we're talking about, if they're anywhere ballpark to right, and this is an issue of gross negligence, the way I see it from the financial aspect, and again, I'm 95% concerned about the public safety aspect, but I am 5%, obviously, you know, I feel like compensation and restitution. I think if they did it, they need to clean up their mess.
Mm-hmm.
That is in the town's interest and it's in my interest. We are aligned on that. If it is negligence on the part of Eversource, they need to clean up their mess. And attached to that, I think that they need to make restitution to me, and I think they need to make restitution to the town, because you did not spend a small sum of money on the fire.
I will agree with you. If there was an issue, you should be fully compensated. The town, that's our obligation to fight. We can't go around charging so-and-so
Well,
and not somebody else. And
it
so
would not, it would be nice to
It-
see restitution.
it would
Maybe
be,
if
but it
there's
will
a
never
legal-
happen. The town doesn't look at it that way. If I was sitting where you are and
Mhm.
if these were factuals and they agree, then I would think that they would.
In order to get that, there needs to be an investigation
I
to some
don't agree
degree.
with that part.
Somebody has to, way more qualified than me,
Mhm.
somebody with the proper credentials and the proper agency,
Mhm.
this has to be run up the correct chain of command. You know, because again, I've hit the wall, I cannot go any further than I have.
But if I understood you, you have not presented this to
Not
Eversource.
in this form to Eversource.
Well,
But then again, isn't that like the fox guarding the hen house?
no, what it is, and that's why my recommendation would have been, this go to the PUC, who oversees
Okay.
Eversource, is that, look, here is what I've investigated and found. Please review it, and if I'm incorrect, show me where I'm incorrect, or if I am correct, I'd be expecting restitution.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do the electrical engineer, but again, I'm in America for Vista.
Yeah.
My husband was in America for State National. It's not in our budget.
You've done a lot of research, present what you have, and then see where that goes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will review this. Thank you so much.
All right?
And
Have a
thank you
good
for the
night.
window of time to work with.
Sure, yeah. Mr., just so that don't forget, let me give you
Oh,
this.
I'm sorry, I have one final,
You gave
I need to do two because you need this.
No, we
They
would
can
sign
sign
it.
both, and then we would sign both and give her a copy. And we'd have an original, she'd have an original.
I'm sorry, I have.
Would you please take this one also? It's a copy, so that if you do sign them, which we anticipate, then return both. We'll sign them and you'll
I'll
get
be able
a
to keep
copy
my own
back.
copy.
Correct.
Actually, I had one last piece.
Yep,
In my head, I scripted this, I got nervous and
you did well.
when the fire happened, everybody said, what are the odds? So on May 2nd, I actually pulled the research and I did the odds. And here's a copy for each of you of the actual odds of this being coincidental, which that was the fuel for all of this investigation, in case you were wondering. Why did I keep at it? Because the math doesn't lie. And that's actually just sort of a anecdotal piece of, you know, just why I did what I did, in case you were wondering.
You see the expressions, yes, I live with the woman.
I like your closing one.
Puts it in a real perspective. And it
Okay.
hasn't happened yet, so obviously.
We keep trying.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What else do we have to cover? The other thing was we need to do, if we have time, which we need to do, is the reviews.
They're in the other room.
Any other, because that'll have to go to non-public. Any other items?
No, that's it.
Oh, do 91A.
Motion going to non-public under 91A3. Where is it?
One for employees.
Yeah. Section 2A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of public employees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.